Today we are going to talk about a very taboo topic, sexual assault among black boys. Hi everyone, I am Alice. I am a licensed trauma and resilient therapist, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do for weekly content on mental health, trauma, in our African communities, especially. Sexual assault among black boys or African men is one of those things that we don't talk about. We don't even touch, right? Even men within their communities, they don't talk about it. I watched two videos by two completely different men. One is a clergy, a pastor, a Nigerian pastor, and the other one is a famous content creator that we may have all seen in our internet spaces. These two men do not know each other, and yet their stories are very similar.
When I was 5, there was a sexual exploitation that took place when I was 5. A friend of the family who at times took care of us would sexually molest me, but I knew it was something that wasn't right because he made me make sure that whenever my parents come home, I don't tell them what's happened. This is our little secret. And it came with shame, a lot of shame immediately. It wasn't until one day I was watching news, it was BBC News, when homosexuality was a taboo. I didn't know the term homosexuality. And I looked at my mom, who was glued to the television ironing. I said, "Mom, what happens to homosexuals?" That's my terminology. And she laughed and she said, "Oh, they go to hell." Now I'm going to hell.
I have never had sexual contact with any man. Ever. Ever. I've never told anyone I've had sexual contact with any man.
Yeah.
However, when I was a minor, there was some traumatic, inappropriate things that happened to me that very few people knew about. And I just had to tell my mom about this.
Because of all that's happening on the internet?
Yes, that's how very few people knew.
Wow.
As a therapist, as a trauma therapist that help people or guide them through childhood trauma, I can tell you that majority of the men that I have worked with have experienced some form of childhood sexual assault. These incidences are very rampant, they are common, and yet we don't talk about it. I know it's a taboo. I know it's a topic that can be very triggering for people. Here is the thing about trauma. The fact that you don't acknowledge it, the fact that you don't talk about it, does not mean that the impact, its effects are not there. It doesn't mean that because we don't talk about it, it's not happening. As somebody who looks at things in our society through an ecological perspective, that is, our environment, all our surroundings have an impact on us, and we also have an impact on our surroundings as well. In essence, whether we acknowledge or we don't acknowledge sexual assault among boys, it is going to impact us in the long run. It is not only going to impact boys, but it is going to impact the whole society and the whole community. So this is an educational video, and it is also a call to action as well. We minimize the sexual assault of boys, make light of their trauma. One of the videos that we watched, this creator, it was somebody else who disclosed their trauma. This pushes, the shameful narrative that boys cannot really be victims, because when boys open up about their sexual assault experiences, they are often met with this kind of resistance that, oh, You should have enjoyed it. Or are you sure you are really a victim? And because Black boys and Black men are hypersexualized, they are expected to enjoy it, even if they are being violated. Here is the truth. This thing is more common than we would like to admit or want to admit. And it is also incredibly underreported, underrecognized, and tragically undertreated. Why? Let's get to the crux of the issue. Why? There is a word that I often say a lot, and people may say, oh, Alice, you attribute everything to patriarchy, or you attribute everything to the systems that we live in. Yes, I attribute it to it because we cannot ignore the effect. We cannot ignore the socialization that we all have been socializing. We all have been socializing this patriarchal, racism, capitalist, dominating world that all of us, men, women, every human being, it's like the water that we are all swimming in it. So nobody goes unescaped. Nobody is immune from its effect. We all drink of this water, we all ingest it. It is in our cells, it is in our systems, and we have to always be cognizant and recognize it. Patriarchy harms men. Capitalism harms men. It gives them this illusion of power. But this power that it gives them, it still commodifies them and it still dehumanizes them. That is why the cases of sexual assault against young boys are unrecognizable, underreported, undertreated. Nobody sees them as victims because under patriarchy, boys are thought to be strong. Boys are thought to be dominating because society even questions them more that why are you saying you are the victim when you are the one that should be dominating, when you are the one that should be aggressive. There is still a stigma around what it means for a boy to be violated. And sometimes these boys may not remember what happened to them. They get older and some of these memories come back. Or sometimes their abusers minimize what they were doing to them. Sometimes the abusers are people very close to them, people in power, people who have some sort of authority over them. And these people may groom them or may tell them that do not tell anybody, or what I'm doing to you is not abuse. And this have such a deeper effect on a person, on boys especially. It distorts their idea of intimacy and boundaries. That trauma becomes the lens through which they look at intimacy and boundaries from, the lens in which they navigate the world when it comes to relating to other people, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to respecting other people's autonomy and agency. It causes mental health issues such as anxiety, PTSD, depression, mood disorder, sometimes personality disorders. It can affect development, so it can affect their academic and social milestones as well. And sometimes that trauma is reenacted. There are times that the victim becomes the perpetrator. The person who was abused becomes the abuse because abuse does not exist in a vacuum. We all have a role to play. What can we do? Number one, we have to believe all victims when they speak up. We have to believe all victims when they speak up. Not question them, not interrogate them, not ask them, why were you wearing this? Why were you at this place? We have to believe them. We have to believe boys when they disclose their abuse. Therapy, very important. If you are a man, if you are a boy and you are listening to this and this has happened to you, therapy, trauma therapy is very important. Make sure you are getting the help that you need. And if you are a man, if you are a boy that this happened to you, I want you to know this. It wasn't your fault. It was not your fault. There was nothing that you could have done to stop it. The person who is to blame is the person who violated you, the person who perpetrated that trauma. You are not to be blamed. You are not to hold on to that shame, that guilt. It is not your fault. Healing is possible. It can be done. Share this with a man in your life. Let me know your thoughts on this video. And let me know if you have any questions as well in the comment section. Subscribe, like, share, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.